Hello and welcome to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. Now before we get into things, just want to give a mention to the fact that I'm doing a giveaway on my Facebook page. There's a link to the page in the description, so if you're interested in picking up some nice freebies courtesy of Konami, then just drop down into the description and head over there. Hello and welcome to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. So this time we're going to be doing a top 10. Now I don't normally do sort of top 10 videos because there are quite a lot of other top 10 videos that already exist, and while some of them are really good, there are some others that are a little bit kind of pointless, to be honest. So it comes as something of a surprise to myself that I'm actually deciding to record this in the first place. But really this stems from when I was building my Yazzie Turbo deck for the Brotherhood WCQ. So in preparation for that event, I knew that I wanted to play something a little bit fun, a little bit out there, because I'd already got my European invite, and I was going to a big event where loads of really good players were playing. There was a very small top cut in terms of the number of very strong players who would be turning up, and I didn't feel like it would be worth the energy to really try and compete with them, especially given that all of my time that I have available, I was mostly pouring into videos that I was making for you guys at the time. So I figured I would just sort of come up with a mishmash of interesting decks that I liked, and to do that I came up with the Yazzie Turbo deck. There's a video all about the deck itself and some combos to go with it that you can check out on the channel as well. But when I was building that, I was finding that there are quite a lot of cards that currently exist within the game which I think are kind of overpowered, kind of busted. They just have a way that they can perform extremely well within the current format, and I think ultimately they're somewhat unfair. So a few of these did make their way into the deck, and certainly when I was building it I was considering adding in different options and trying to figure out how best to balance these cards out. But today I want to try and bring you my top 10 busted cards for the March 2019 format. So an important note is how I'm evaluating these cards. All of these have some powerful effects on the format and have potential to outright win games. Accessibility makes a card more busted since you'll be winning more games with it, and because so many factors feature into this decision making, it's kind of hard to order these cards, but I'm going to be giving it a go. So let me know what would be in your top 10 in the comment section, and let's see if we agree on everything. So in 10th place we're going to have Inspector Border. So we're kicking things off with a card that is so stunning that for a very brief time people actually built decks just so that they could sit on this card for, let's say, 5 or even 10 turns. This is a slot that could easily have actually gone to something like Denko Sekka if the format was a little bit different, but shutting off monster effects is really huge at the moment. While you need to see it pretty early, a 2000 attack body that stops the majority of the cards in the game is crazily good and well worth picking up if you haven't already. There will always be a format where this card is pretty good, and right now it's one of the best. Things like Thunder Dragons or Orcust and a lot of other decks in this manner just fold to something like a normal summon of the Fun Police. So moving on to number 9, this is for Colossus, so actually a card that I've never owned. Let's hold on just a minute. There we go. Extra deck floodgates make it very difficult to have a back and forth match, especially one that's a floodgate which hits every deck in the format. Only really Orcust danger decks and similar can get around this card with any ease, and on top of this, the rest of the meta can really struggle to remove this card as a threat. Its hefty stats actually beat most of the monsters within the format. Marry that to the fact that attempts to remove it trigger searches and summons, and you have a card that is going absolutely nowhere very soon. So moving on to number 8, we have Guardragon LP, or really this sort of Guardragon set in general. This card just does so many things. LP is a card which facilitates the summoning of lots of very good cards. It's easier than originally anticipated to make it live, and it provides multiple paths for your final board. If there's a way to include it in a functioning manner in your deck, then I'd definitely give it some serious thought. So the first sleeper that I have is ABC Dragonbuster. Now we know that this card is phenomenal. It practically dominated an entire format. Even now, we see that ABC players can convincingly top competitive and Premier level events, and it's certainly not because normal A equip B is a match-winning play. Most decks right now struggle with their resources being banished, and they often only OTK through attack position monsters, but tagging out Buster into 3 defense position monsters that get you searches and additional summons make this nigh on impossible. This card is still one of the strongest out there, and definitely not to be forgotten. So number 7 is Evenly Matched, and unfortunately I've just sold my copies of these cards, given that there's going to be the Dual Power re-release in the near future, but once again we're going to be fixing this up. There we go. This card was hyped to be utterly bonkers before release and was immediately dropped, became popular again, and now it's pretty much just a side deck choice. Okay, so turn 1 it doesn't really do anything, but for this round we're not going to be on team defense, it's all about team attack. In no way does this card make things even, since every deck this format commits to a board, wiping it almost entirely clean is very, very strong. Doing so off one effect is even better, and as a small bonus, the existence of this card even allows for some interesting mind games to be had. Evenly almost always puts you ahead, and can outright win matchups against several popular meta contenders, so of course it was going to make its way into the top 10. So number 6 is my absolute favourite card this format, and it is the incredibly evil Yazi Evil of the Yang Zing. The card beats random decks on its own, but more generally it facilitates plays of Pop 1 then Brionac, or Pop 2 then Borosword, and all sorts of other shenanigans. It's also ridiculously generic, and it has very good stats for this format with 2600 attack. Plus, you can actually play it in ulti of course, but once again, this is purely for team attack. Although it is amazing with how far ahead you can get, definitely one for going second and for ripping apart an opponent's board. So into the top 5, we start off with Abyss Dweller. So, I've already said it, floodgates are really good, and when you make them apply to every deck in the format, and then shove them into a generic extra deck card, you're bound to have something pretty busted. There obviously is nothing else to this card, it's literally just stand by phase resolve effect, and then you probably win off that, if it's relevant for the matchup. And to be honest, at the moment, what matchup doesn't suffer from being trapped by no graveyard access? There are so many things out there at the moment that require it, and this card is so easy to summon, it was definitely going to make its way into this list. So the second sleeper that I have for you is Void Feast. This card is pretty nuts. 3 monsters, 2 of which are negates, and you get to banish from grave on top of that, which is absolutely absurd right now with Salamangreats. With Lair Up it's even better, but as is with so many decks having intense grave reliance, Infernoids have a really strong potential that's being wasted, to be honest. We've only actually seen it in the last week or so, that has been able to come in and top events because people have realised just how good it is. You can actually run Void Feast at 12 copies thanks to Lilith, Void Banishment and Trap Trick as well, so you can make a really consistent deck with this, which I may have to actually give a go at. So in spot number 4 is Artifact Sanctum. So there was actually a time when this card was about £60 per copy, which is around $80 American. And for very good reason. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Relies heavily on extra decks, and when you can stop extra deck summons via just a Sanctum and summoning a Scythe, you pretty much always just come out on top. Just like Border, you need to see this card very early, but if you do, there's virtually nothing you stopping from smashing the win button, just like you should be smashing the like button right now. So in third place I'm putting Azathoth. Now there's potential for this card to be placed higher in this list because it is so very good. It's actually busted. There is only one relevant deck that really doesn't need lots of monster effects, and to be honest there's not really any deck which consistently beats August that actually can deal with this. It doesn't activate, so your opponent has to stop the summoning method itself, and that makes the Azathoth really kind of unstoppable. It has previously facilitated playing FTKs through hand traps. This is something that it definitely will be doing in the future if it does persist within the format. It's a floodgate which hits more than 60% of cards that are used in the metagame, and it's practically unstoppable, and that is why it takes third place here. So second place may be a little bit of an odd choice. This is Cyberstite, and the reason for this is because it makes practically all of the extra deck monsters that we've seen so far. It's a 1-card Azathoth, a 1-card Yazi, a 1-card Royal Decree / Imperial Order, a 1-card no summons from your opponent, and it allows the latest FTK or even new OTKs to potentially arrive. Resolving this card is just game. You would have to really try hard to lose if you manage to resolve Cyberstite. It's a blast from the past, but it's been on the ban list for a very long time, and maybe it should be going back there. But at 1 copy, it's this kind of random chance to top deck away into victory, whether that happens on turn 1 or turn 12, depending on how long the game lasts, and whether or not you can actually resolve this. So taking the number 1 spot is actually a suggestion from my playing group, and this is Isolde. So I honestly think this card will feature in and probably be busted in every format for as long as it is legal. There will always be big Link boss monsters, and this card will allow you to make something from them. Right now you get a free card, and then you're able to set up a board with Griffin, Eradicator Epidemic Virus, Redoer, and the rank up magic for your Azathoth play, and you've probably got a Shade Brigandine on there too. This card easily facilitates the best boards that I've ever seen, and is going to be very easy to make for a long time. It's scary how much potential this card actually has, when the only limiting factor is how much risk of bricking you're happy to take when you assemble your deck. So that's it for my top 10. Let me know what cards you think are busted and why in the comment section below. Subscribe to get good, like for Perry, and I'll see you guys in the next one.